Indigenous languages of the Americas are spoken by indigenous peoples from Alaska and Greenland to the southern tip of South America, encompassing the land masses that constitute the Americas. These indigenous languages consist of dozens of distinct language families, as well as many language isolates and unclassified languages. Many proposals to group these into higher-level families have been made, such as in 3 macrofamilies of Eskimo Aleut, Na-Dene, and Amerind. This scheme is rejected by nearly all specialists. According to UNESCO, most of the indigenous American languages in North America are critically endangered, and many are already extinct. The most widely spoken indigenous language is Southern Quechua, with about 6 to 7 million speakers, primarily in South America. Background: thousands of languages were spoken by various peoples in North and South America prior to their first contact with Europeans. These encounters occurred between the beginning of the 11th century and the end of the 15th century. Several indigenous cultures of the Americas had also developed their own writing systems, the best known being the Mayan. The indigenous languages of the Americas had widely varying demographics, from the Quechua languages, Aymara, Guarani, and Nahuatl, which had millions of active speakers, to many languages with only several hundred speakers. After pre-Columbian times, several indigenous Creole languages developed in the Americas, based on European, indigenous and African languages. The European colonizers and their successor states had widely varying attitudes towards Native American languages. In Brazil, friars learned and promoted the Tupi language. In many Latin American colonies, Spanish missionaries often learned local languages and culture in order to preach to the natives in their own tongue and relate the Christian message to their indigenous religions. In the British American colonies, John Aleut of Massachusetts translated the Bible into the Massachusetts language, also called Wampanoag, or Natick. The Europeans also suppressed use of indigenous American languages, establishing their own languages for official communications, destroying texts in other languages, and insisting that indigenous people learn European languages in schools. As a result, indigenous American languages suffered from cultural suppression and loss of speakers. By the 18th and 19th centuries, Spanish, English, Portuguese, French, and Dutch, brought to the Americas by European settlers and administrators, had become the official or national languages of modern nation-states of the Americas. Many indigenous languages have become critically endangered, but others are vigorous and part of daily life for millions of people. Several indigenous languages have been given official status in the countries where they occur, such as Guarana in Paraguay. In other cases, official status is limited to certain regions where the languages are most spoken. Although sometimes enshrined in constitutions as official, the languages may be used infrequently in de facto official use. Examples are Quechua in Peru and Aymara in Bolivia, where in practice, Spanish is dominant in all formal contexts. In Northern America and the Arctic region, Greenland in 2009 adopted Aleut as its sole official language. In the United States, the Navajo language is the most spoken Native American language, with more than 200,000 speakers in the southwestern United States. The U.S. Marine Corps recruited Navajo men, who were established as code talkers during World War II, to transmit secret U.S. military messages. Neither the Germans nor Japanese ever deciphered the Navajo code, which was a code using the Navajo language. Today, governments, universities, and indigenous peoples are continuing to work for the preservation and revitalization of indigenous American languages. Origins. In American Indian languages, the historical linguistics of Native America, Lyle Campbell lists several hypotheses for the historical origins of Amerindian languages. A single, one-language migration, a few linguistically distinct migrations, multiple migrations, multilingual migrations, the influx of already diversified but related languages from the Old World, extinction of Old World linguistic relatives, migration along the Pacific coast instead of by the Bering Strait. Roger Blench has advocated the theory of multiple migrations along the Pacific coast of peoples from northeastern Asia, who already spoke diverse languages. These proliferated in the New World. Language families and unclassified languages. Notes: extinct languages or families are indicated by €. The number of family members is indicated in parentheses, means the Arawn family consists of 9 languages. For convenience, the following list of language families is divided into 3 sections based on political boundaries of countries. These sections correspond roughly with the geographic regions but are not equivalent. This division cannot fully delineate indigenous culture areas. North America equals. There are approximately 296 spoken indigenous languages north of Mexico, 269 of which are grouped into 29 families. The Na-Dene copyright, Algec, and Uto-Aztecan families are the largest in terms of number of languages. Uto-Aztecan has the most speakers if the languages in Mexico are considered. Na-Dene comes in second with approximately 200,000 speakers, and Algec in third with about 180,000 speakers. Na-Dene copyright and Algec have the widest geographic distributions. Algec currently spans from northeastern Canada across much of the continent down to northeastern Mexico with 2 outliers in California. Na-Dene copyright spans from Alaska and western Canada through Washington, Oregon, and California to the U.S. Southwest and northern Mexico. Several families consist of only 2 or 3 languages. Demonstrating genetic relationships has proved difficult due to the great linguistic diversity present in North America. 2 large family proposals, Penutian and Hokan, look particularly promising. However, even after decades of research, a large number of families remain. North America is notable for its linguistic diversity, especially in California. This area has 18 language families comprising 74 languages. Another area of considerable diversity appears to have been the Southeast. However, many of these languages became extinct from European contact and as a result they are, for the most part, absent from the historical record. This diversity has influenced the development of linguistic theories and practice in the U.S. Due to the diversity of languages in North America, it is difficult to make generalizations for the region. Most North American languages have a relatively small number of vowels. Languages of the western half of North America often have relatively large consonant inventories. The languages of the Pacific Northwest are notable for their complex phonotactics. The languages of the Plateau area have relatively rare pharyngeals and epiglottals. Ejective consonants are also common in North America, although they are rare elsewhere. Head marking is found in many languages of North America, but outside of the Americas it is rare. Many languages throughout North America are polysynthetic, although this is not characteristic of all North American languages. Several families have unique traits, such as the inverse number marking of Tanoan, the lexical affixes of Wakashan, Silesian and Chimakuan, and the unusual verb structure of Na-Dene. The classification below is a composite of Goddard, Campbell, and Mython. Central America and Mexico equals. In Central America the Mayan languages are among those used today. Mayan languages are spoken by at least 6 million indigenous Maya, primarily in Guatemala, Mexico, Belize and Honduras. In 1996, Guatemala formally recognized 21 Mayan languages by name, and Mexico recognizes 8 more. The Mayan language family is one of the best documented and most studied in the Americas. Modern Mayan languages descend from Proto-Mayan, a language thought to have been spoken at least 5,000 years ago. It has been partially reconstructed using the comparative method. South America and the Caribbean equals. Although both North and Central America are very diverse areas, South America has a linguistic diversity rivaled by only a few other places in the world, with approximately 350 languages still spoken and an estimated 1,500 languages at first European contact. The situation of language documentation and classification into genetic families is not as advanced as in North America. Kaufman gives the following appraisal. Since the mid-1950s, the amount of published material on SA, South America has been gradually growing, but even so, the number of researchers is far smaller than the growing number of linguistic communities whose speech should be documented. Given the current employment opportunities, it is not likely that the number of specialists in SA Indian languages will increase fast enough to document most of the surviving SA languages before they go out of use, as most of them unavoidably will. More work languishes in personal files than is published, but this is a standard problem. It is fair to say that SA and New Guinea are linguistically the poorest documented parts of the world. However, in the early 1960s fairly systematic efforts were launched in Papua New Guinea, and that area much smaller than SA. To be sure, is in general much better documented than any part of indigenous SA of comparable size. As a result, many relationships between languages and language families have not been determined, and some of those relationships that have been proposed are on somewhat shaky ground. The list of language families, isolates, and unclassified languages below is a rather conservative one based on Campbell. Many of the proposed groupings of families can be seen in Campbell, Gordon, Kaufman, Key, Lau-Kotka, and in the Language Stock Proposals section below. Language Stock Proposals. Hypothetical language family proposals of American languages are often cited as uncontroversial in popular writing. However, many of these proposals have not been fully demonstrated, or even demonstrated at all. Some proposals are viewed by specialists in a favorable light, believing that genetic relationships are very likely to be established in the future. Other proposals are more controversial, with many linguists believing that some genetic relationships of a proposal may be demonstrated but much of it undemonstrated. Still, other proposals are almost unanimously rejected by specialists. Below is a list of some such proposals. Good discussions of past proposals can be found in Campbell and Mython. Amerindian linguist Lyle Campbell also assigned different percentage values of probability and confidence for various proposals of macrofamilies and language relationships, depending on his views of the proposal's strengths. For example, the Germanic language family would receive probability and confidence percentage values of plus 100% and 100%, respectively. However, if Turkish and Quechua were compared, the probability value might be a 95%, while the confidence value might be 95%. 0% probability or confidence would mean complete uncertainty. Linguistic areas. Unattested languages. Several languages are only known by mention in historical documents or from only a few names or words. It cannot be determined that these languages actually existed or that the few recorded words are actually of known or unknown languages. Some may simply be from a historian's errors. Others are of known people with no linguistic record. A short list is below. Lau-Kotka reports the names of hundreds of South American languages which do not have any linguistic documentation. Pidgins and mixed languages. Various miscellaneous languages such as pidgins, mixed languages, trade languages, and sign languages are given below in alphabetical order. See also: Amerind languages, Archive of the Indigenous Languages of Latin America, Classification of Indigenous Peoples of the Americas, Classification Schemes for Indigenous Languages of the Americas, Haplogroup QM242, Indigenous Peoples of the Americas, Language Families and Languages, Languages of Peru, List of endangered languages in Canada, List of endangered languages in Mexico, List of endangered languages in the United States of America, List of endangered languages with mobile apps, List of indigenous languages in Argentina, Mesoamerican languages, Native American Languages Act of 1990. Notes. Bibliography. North America South America External links. Catalogo de lenguas indígenas sul-americanas, Diccionario Etnolinga 1 Turístico y Guía Bibliográfica de los Pueblos Indígenas Sudamericanos, towards a general typology of South American indigenous languages. A bibliographical database, South American Languages, Society to Advance Indigenous Vernaculars of the United States, Indigenous Peoples' Languages, articles, news, videos. Documentation Center of the Linguistic Minorities of Panama, the Archive of the Indigenous Languages of Latin America, Indigenous Language Institute, the Society for the Study of the Indigenous Languages of the Americas, Southern Oregon Digital Archives First Nations Tribal Collection, Center for the Study of the Native Languages of the Plains and Southwest, Project for the Documentation of the Languages of Mesoamerica, Programa de Formació en Educació en Intercultural Bilingual 1/4 y para los por Andinos, Native American Language Center, Native Languages of the Americas, International Journal of American Linguistics, Our Languages, Swadesh lists of Brazilian native languages.